Those are the outer piling that will retain the columns for the outside or street level of the stadium. This shows the form that has been set around the H-columns that have been driven to bedrock, and the concrete has been poured in this form. That is 30 feet below street level. The carpenter that you see standing there is my buddy. This is Art DeClue. We were buddies during the capping of these H-columns. Looking to the north, and you can see the different court buildings in the background. And, the rig that is in the foreground is the one that is being used to set the farms. This is still below street level. You can see the steel sticking up over there, getting ready for the farms. And in the background, a little bit to the left of center, is the north leg of the arch. Here you can see the steel that is on top of those H piling that we showed a little earlier, and they're ready to be formed and poured. You also see the hotel in the background. It has the rig up on top that demoed that hotel from the top down. Columns that have already been formed on top of the H piling, and you also see the south leg of the arch, and also the destruction of the hotel in the background. In the foreground, the men that are getting ready to set those forms for the columns that will come up. That's the change house. The black object in the foreground is sitting in the infield ground, and those are change houses where we, the workmen, would change our clothes in the morning before we take our street clothes off and put on our work clothes. Of the hotel in the background being demoed, and also the south leg of the arch. I did this to get a good shot of, on this one, of the hotel being demoed in the background. Again is the hotel in the background, and in the foreground are the columns that have already been set on top of the H piling, and the wall is being erected between the columns. The men in the center there are in the process of getting ready to close in the steel that you see in the foreground for the columns that have previously been poured. This is a close-up of the forms that are being set for the precast, and you can see those on the left have just been formed and not poured. The ones on the right have already been poured. As the pours go around, it's Looking down from the top, it'll be counterclockwise, and those will be where the precast is for the seating. This is a shot of one of those open columns that will have reinforcing steel put in it, attached to the rods that are there showing up, and that is what will be the seating of the precast. Okay, in the foreground in the center there is a test pour of the finger beam, and the reason this was made was to determine how much deflection there would be in that after the brace, the support brace, is removed from the near left hand, which is the upper end of the beam. Okay. The north leg of the arch is seen in the background. There were two companies involved in construction of the stadium because of the size of the project, and it was Fruin Collin Millstone, and this is one of the superintendents that worked for Millstone. This is a close-up of the forms that were used to pour the columns, and the men there that are in white are the carpenters, and we poured these right through the winter, and after they were poured, the laborers then wrapped blankets around them, and due to the chemical reaction of the concrete, the next morning you could step in there and it'd be like 70 degrees. Progress here, you can see how much of the stadium has been completed to the far right, and underneath the crane that you see on the near center left is the old courthouse building. The crane on the left-hand side, it shows just above the old courthouse, and the work on the right-hand side just shows the progress of the stadium at that point. This again shows the precast that has been set on the one level, low level there, and the beams that will receive the precast for the seating is in the upper section. Just another shot of the column at street level as we're coming around from west to south to east to north. Okay, here you can see the test beam, the finger beam on the left-hand side, and the workmen at this point are up there pouring the concrete into the beam. Those are the beams that will support the precast that have already been poured. This is another real good shot of the south leg of the arch with the crane on it, and they have just put the brace in between the north and south leg. This shows one of the wooden forms that was used to pour the roof section. There were 6 of these forms made, and the end that you see is the street end, 18 feet in diameter, a 9-foot radius, and it got progressively flatter as it went toward the infield. It only had a 6-inch crown in the 54 feet. There were 2 layers of 3/8-inch marine grade plywood. Each farm weighed 7 tons and poured 16 pours of the roof. This is the metal framework that was set on 4 Bradley wagons, which we'll show in the near future, that was rolled around on the precast, and each one of the farms was, after the crane lifted them up to a point, this rig came up underneath and did the last like 3 feet of the raising of the farm into place between the beams. This is a good shot of the farm being raised up in place, and you can see the cable that is attached to the rig that is raising this up, and each one of these was raised into between the beams, and then the last like 3 feet was raised up with man-operated hand winches from down below on those Bradley wagons. The wagons had offset wheels. This is one of the wood farms, and it has now been attached to the beam on each side with the 1-inch awl thread, and the metal framework that you see has a catwalk around there for the workmen to work underneath it and put that awl thread in, and also when the farm is ready to come down. This little red-headed carpenter that worked on this crew that loosened the farm from the concrete pour fell one day, and he hit the guy wire cable that is on the outside of that catwalk, and instead of him bouncing over, he bounced back and saved himself from falling 80 feet to his death. This is a real good shot of the underside of the wood roof farms, and it shows the amount of bracing that we did on that wood roof farm. 6 farms were built, 7 tons each, and they poured 16 pours of concrete. This shows the progress of the construction with the south leg of the arch in the center background. There again it shows the farm that had been raised up to this given point with the rig, and it's now on that framework that is sitting on the 4 wagons, and you can see the progress of this arch with the 2 rigs very visible that lifted the stainless steel material up on the top of the legs of the arch. It has been set on the metal framework that is onto the 4 wagons that completed the raising in between the beams. This is one of the wood farms that is still attached to the crane, and the black object that you see on top of that farm is the brace that's put in there to keep the cables that are lifting it from collapsing and doing damage to the farm. This shows the farm, the wood farm that has been set on the steel structure that sits on the 4 wagons and the crane has released it, and it will now be cranked up with the hand winches. The rig has just been released, and the farm now is sitting on the metal framework that sits on the 4 wagons that completed the raising up between the beams. Again, here's one of the wood farms that has some light spots on it. The paper company that was directly west of the stadium caught fire one night and blew some hot paper over onto the farms and damaged them, and that's the repair that was made so that we could continue to use the farms for the rest of the pours. This is another shot of one of the farms that was damaged during the fire of the paper company, and in the sort of center you see the orange object there, and that's one of the hand winches. Those were used to pull it up in the last like 3 feet. This is a good picture of the support legs that are underneath the beam that I talked about as the test beam was being poured out in the field much earlier in the picture. And also this to the center of the picture, it shows the 4 wagons that support the steel frame that the roof section set on that were transported around the stadium. This is a very good picture of the expansion joint that every 6th one of the roofs had one of those 1-inch styrofoam expansion joints in it. You see the wagon is a little to the center of the picture, and it's rolling around to pick up another farm and wheel it around to the left. You see the precast that has already been set. The 4 wagons are to the left. The roof sections are now being poured. Okay, this is one of the wood farms that's almost ready to pour. The steel rods are lying not on, they're supported with a special bracket that does not let the steel touch the wood farm, and that one is ready to be poured with the concrete. This is one of the wood farms that had been damaged by the flying on fire paper, and again you can see my shadow there on the farm. I'm taking the picture, and the man on the right is either a concrete finisher or one of the steel workers. The 2 men here shown in the foreground are carpenters. The one on the left is Clay Brown, and the one on the right with the white overalls is Bob, but I don't remember what his last name is. But immediately to his right in the background is the old courthouse building, and the man on the right in the background is one of the steel workers getting ready for near the last pour of the roof sections. Okay, these men that you see here on top of the farm are either concrete workers or iron workers. Okay, these three carpenters are Ed on the left, Kenny in the center, and Bob on the right. Those are carpenters that helped on the roof construction. Okay, this is near the last of the pouring of the roofs and the last of the stadium construction, as this part, that's Ed on the left again and Bob on the right, and the one in the middle is myself, Johnnie Drewer, that you saw the shadow of before. This is the crane taking one of the roof forms down. After the roofs have been poured, I had a 40-foot flat rented from Dan Ham waiting out on the street, that as the first 4 of these farms came down, I carted them down South Broadway and had 4 of them sitting in Bosun's quarry at one time.